Hey, Diana, did you know that taking time off can actually make you money?
Mark, that's the dumbest thing you've ever said.
Ladies and gentlemen, jurists and just curious, welcome to the Successful Barrister podcast. Here you'll learn about marketing, management, and life skills for lawyers that probably won't get you disbarred. Hosted by Mark Whitehead, a seasoned lawyer who remembers when fax machines were cutting edge, and Diana Berry, attorney, COO, and the brains behind the scenes. Together, they are the legal world's most dynamic duo since statutes met regulations. So if you're looking to build a practice, not a prison, you're in the right place. Welcome to the Successful Barrister, where legal legends are made.
Welcome everyone to the Successful Barrister podcast. As we sit here, I think this episode will be broadcast, aired, whatever you want to call dropping a podcast, in January of 2020. You're right, January 2025.
We're not going. 2020 was not going back in.
I would like to say that I probably had a really good weekend, and we're sitting here on a Monday morning, and I'm probably not awake yet, but that's okay. Anyway, welcome to the Successful Barrister podcast, the podcast for lawyers about marketing, management, and life skills that probably won't get you disbarred. I'm Mark Whitehead, and I'm along here with my co-host, Diana Berry. Hey, Diana, what's up?
Hey, Mark. I am excited. We're pushed towards the end of the year, and I do better with sprints. Marathons are harder for me, so I like it.
All right. So today we are going to do a recap of the Atticus Summit that we just got back from a couple of weeks ago. And really, this is the first time that we've had a chance to reconvene and kind of discuss what was going on. So just, Diana, what the hell is the Atticus Summit?
That's a great question, Mark. So it's held at the end of the year. So Atticus, we participate in Atticus in the DYM, Dominate Your Market Group, and they meet quarterly. And this is the fourth quarter meeting, which is where they bring all the Atticusans together in Orlando for 1.5 days.
It was probably a good 2 days.
Good 2 days.
Especially if you show up the day before to go to happy hour, which of course you should, because it's a great networking event. So there's about 400 Atticusans in the room.
Yep.
And they kind of have a mixture of keynote speakers and more practical-based speakers, some of which I'm sure they're paying speaker fees to, and some of them are just Atticus members that are sharing their best stuff. And I'm guessing they don't get paid. I didn't get paid when I presented.
But that's okay. You're not bitter.
I'm not bitter about that.
So it differs because I think the first 3 of the year, they tend to be more on how to really work on your practice. If I were to talk, we talked a lot about the 100,000 challenge this year. And we talked about fees and all that stuff this year. So I think the tagline that Atticus is currently working with is great practice, great life. And so the other 3, I'd say, focus on the great practice, whereas Summit really is on the great life part.
Yes.
You agree?
I agree. I agree totally. So backing up just a little bit for those who are not aware. So Atticus is a lawyer coaching company that's over 30 years old, one of the first lawyer coaching companies in that space.
And how long have you been?
I've probably been a member 15 years or so.
Wow.
I've probably been exposed to it for the last 20 years. It's run by Mark Powers, and quick shout out to Mark Powers. Mark Powers is recovering from cancer and was not with us last year. Whenever you're doing the chemo and all that stuff, you're a little bit, under the weather and you're susceptible, and you're not supposed to expose, you're immunocompromised. So he couldn't really participate last year. So this was his first meeting back.
It was good to see him.
And he was hugging everybody, and he gave the initial presentation. And I think that was one of the highlights of the whole thing, was just to see Mark was back.
Yeah.
And he was looking great, and he was talking about playing golf, and he was sitting there drinking scotch with us and all of that fun stuff, just like good old Mark Powers used to do. So we were very happy to have him back.
It's a good story.
It is a great story, great story. One of the key things that he said, and I hadn't thought about this before, he goes, how did he phrase it? I actually wrote it down. You need to establish a reserve of health for those times when you need it. So Marc has always been, a health advocate, and has always talked about, he's older, he's 65-ish, I think, but working out, building out up that health reserve, because eventually some bug is going to get you, some life event is going to get you. And those that are healthy when that happens are able to weather that storm. Whereas those, especially when you get into your older years, that are really not in the best shape, sometimes don't survive it.
No.
So that really struck home with me. It's like, I got to build up my health reserve. I just turned 58. Thank you very much. So now is the time to kind of reinvigorate my health journey.
Yep. So Atticus they introduced me, and I don't know about you, but introduced me for sure to the longevity journey that's really become, I'd say, popular, but it's just something to really think about, the fact that, we may see longer lifespans than our parents, and it was definitely our grandparents have. And so definitely making healthier choices so that if that time comes in our lifetime, that you're in a good place to take advantage of those advances.
Yes.
Which we've talked about in prior.
Yes, we have. So anyway, when we come back from a break, we're going to go over, I think what we've decided to do is Diana and I are going to pick our top 3 favorite presenters and go through the highlights of what we like the best. And I was caveat, if you didn't make the list of the top 6, that didn't mean we didn't love you. It just sometimes not everything strikes home. And yes, we are pressed for time. So, all right, with that, we'll be right back.
This podcast is sponsored by Mark Whitehead and Associates, a national disability benefits law firm. Mark Whitehead runs a firm of over 60 dedicated people whose mission is to make a difference in the lives of our injured and disabled clients. Mark represents disabled claimants in Social Security disability, private disability insurance, and veterans disability claims in all 50 states. Mark Whitehead is double board certified in both Social Security disability law and personal injury trial law. Mark has litigated disability cases in over 40 states and counting, and can help your clients too. Stop throwing your phone calls away. Call Mark Whitehead at 701-VIP-LEAD. That's 701-VIP-LEAD. Or visit our website at disabilitydenials.com. Referral fees are paid in all jurisdictions where it is permitted. Refer us your disability cases today and know that your clients will be in good hands.
All right, so ladies first. So
The pressure.
I know the pressure's on you. So Diana, give us your best shot. Who is your first up from the Atticus Summit that really made an impression with you?
I'm going to go with Colleen Goldenfarb. Colleen Goldenfarb presented Why Does Work Get the Best of You and Your Loved Ones Get the Rest of You? So Colleen was just massively impressive. Obviously, I say obviously, that's probably not, but she's Craig Goldenfarb's wife, and we've spoken about Craig on here, one of our favorites.
Craig, one of our Atticousins. Actually, he's the one who coined the term Atticousin.
Mm-hmm. And he's one of our favorites. And y'all have been in Atticus
since 2015 together.
Yeah. So, and so it's his wife, and she presented on this topic at a previous conference, and I just really resonated with me. One of the things that I still take and just remember is a slide that she had, time does not equal presence. And so it's she had the big not equal sign there, and time doesn't equal presence. And I think that that's something, especially now with so many things that can demand our attention, that really just being present. Wherever you are, be there, I think is the most important thing. I obviously have this job, and it's not a 40-hour week job at all. And so sometimes, more often than not, actually, I'll boot up in the morning at home, I'll boot up at night at home. I'll work weekends. I can't do this job without working weekends. But even if I'm at home, I think it's important that I'm not working when I'm also trying to be a mother or a wife. I think it's also important that I just take time for myself. That's a whole self-care episode that we probably could do. But time doesn't equal presence. And so I think that one was the biggest takeaway for me from Colleen's session. Do you have any takeaways from Colleen's?
Yeah, so Craig has mentioned many times over the years, very publicly, in a very public forum, that he's a notorious workaholic. And he's publicly talked about the fact that his workaholism has affected his marriage, affected his relationships with his wife, his children, and so forth, to the point he, talks about it almost cost him his marriage. And, I think Craig will tell a lot of funny stories about some really weird things he has done over time to do some soul searching to try to get past that obsessive need to always be working, to spend time with his family. And one of the things he has done is he's brought Colleen, his wife, into the Atticus family, even though she's not an attorney and she doesn't work for his law firm. But she has a real interesting background. She was a former TV reporter, right?
Exactly.
Right. So very good speaker, but she talked about that. And so a little further background, last year, Atticus did a couples retreat that Craig and Colleen went to. And it was all about kind of solving some of these issues,
Yeah.
These workaholism issues and things like that. And so a lot of her presentation revolved around that workshop, of which my wife and I plan to go to when they offer it again.
That's great. I'm glad to hear that.
I think they're going to do it on an every other year basis, is what I'm hoping they're going to do. So hopefully maybe this summer, Atticus will put that on. But it's basically, for, couples, to how do you apply the principles of great practice, great life, and how do you take that beyond me dealing with the lawyers in my firm and the staff in my firm, and how do I take that to the next level of let's take that to your family, and how do you apply these principles to how you deal particularly with your significant other.
Yep. And so, I mean, I think you just said it, but concisely, Craig's a self-prescribed serial entrepreneur. And so I think that resonates probably with a lot of our listeners, people who have just ended up either owning their own law firm and then subsequent businesses, and how do you marry that with your family? So one of the biggest things that I wrote down was that she and Craig now have weekly meetings. They have an agenda. So I'm going to run through it really quickly. So they start with their wins from the last week, and then they go to where they're stuck. They talk about their 90-day goals, update on any pending projects. Then they go over their calendars, and then they take time to request something of each other from the following week, and then they hug. And I think that's a real, I mean, my husband and I are not getting there anytime soon, but it's a goal. Maybe not in 25, but it's definitely something to think about, especially with two busy people, weekly meetings to sit down and just make sure you're touching base. Although it's definitely a goal for me.
Yes, absolutely.
So your turn, Mark. What you got?
Okay, so I'm going to go with Glen Finch. Glen has been an Atticus practice advisor for, I think he said 20, 25 years.
Oh.
Long time.
Wow. Most of his career.
Yes. Glen has an interesting background. He's also I believe, a bird colonel in the Army Reserve, which means he's on the bench. He could be a general someday. Who knows? So he has basically two lives. He has his life outside of the military, where he's a coach. And then he has his life inside the military, where he, I'm sure, has all sorts of military discipline going on. But what his topic was really the ability to command or manage your thoughts and emotions, particularly in a business context, and how that can actually make you more profitable, make your life as a business owner less stressful. His basic thesis was that emotional intelligence can make you money. And I've tried to take the emotional intelligence test. I think you've taken it. We've actually talked about it.
You mean you tried?
I took it. I looked at it. I was a little, this is kind of foo-foo. You know how I am about foo-foo things.
You did take the test, though. So yes, I do know. And yes, you did complete the test.
Yeah. And I'm like, but I never really did anything with it. I don't think I really applied it. And there were probably some good concepts that probably were worthy of me exploring again. So I think that's one of the goals I have in 2025, is to go back and revisit, this concept of emotional intelligence and how you can use that in a business context. So here were a couple of points he made. He had better client relationships equal more business.
Mm-hmm.
Better emotional intelligence equals better negotiations, higher settlements. He talked about how emotional intelligence can help you with your leadership team, managing your leadership team, to where they can have greater influence and actually greater influence over your revenue. So he's basically talking about, in my mind, stop being so damn childlike and be an adult and use that to better manage your firm and become a more profitable firm. I think that was the general concept behind his thinking. But anyway, I always like hearing Glenn speak, and I think this next year we're actually going to be in his group, at least for a little bit. We haven't quite got there yet, but I think that may be where we're going. So I'm looking forward to spending more time with Glenn this year. What do you think about Glenn?
I really liked it. So he approached it from, I think, I'd say a psychology perspective, talking about neurons and synapses and all the brain development of it all. And I'm not going to even try and summarize that because I'd definitely mess it up. But I appreciated the science behind why I think it would be a fair summary to say it is easier for women to do the active listening and those types of things, whereas for men, it's not necessarily even just neurologically it's something you'll have to work on.
So that
Hopefully I'm not messing that up.
Yeah, well, he gave 3 tips, and the first one is what you just said: practice active listening. My wife has said this for years. She goes, "You listen to what I'm saying, but you're not hearing what I'm saying."
I like that. I'm going to take that.
I know. I hate that. She nails me with that all the time. You know, she'll talk to me, and I'm sitting there watching the news, and she'll go, "You're not listening to the thing I said," and I can repeat back verbatim what she said.
Yeah,
but did it really sink in?
No.
I don't know. Well, I'm listening to.
I think you just proved your point.
I'm listening to Anderson Cooper. Anderson's got my attention at the moment.
So, active listening is important.
Active listening. He talked about reflect and regulate. Okay, I know what the first part is. Reflect. In other words, think about it. Let it sink in. Let it, kind of like an LP record. Let the grooves start grooving. To regulate, I'm not quite sure I'm quite fully found out what he was talking about there. I guess I don't know. Tell me what he meant.
Oh, I don't know. But what it meant to me was respond, don't react. It's the reaction is that sharp, immediate response. Whereas the response is what happens after you reflect and you're really thinking, okay, this is what maybe triggered me. And this is what's really going on behind the scenes. And as everyone in this firm knows, maybe I'm just hungry.
Yeah.
Maybe I just need to eat.
I would say respond with a goal or outcome in mind.
Yep. No,
okay,
absolutely.
as opposed to just reacting randomly. So if you respond with a goal or outcome in mind, like, okay, somebody's upset but don't just react to it. Respond in a way that gets you where you want to be, which is you want to calm that person down and get to the root of the problem. So, the third one was practice empathy by asking more questions, which he kind of related to the growth mindset philosophy that we have been studying in Atticus for a while. But I like that. Ask more questions. Number one, people love to talk about themselves. So how do you get them to open up? Ask them questions.
And I think that actually made it into one of our leadership's 10 healthy rules of rumbling was to engage in a dialogue. By asking questions, you're inherently engaging in a dialogue, not a monologue of just this is what I think and what I want and what I hope. So is it my turn again?
In that regard, I'm going to ask you this question.
Uh-oh.
What's your next one?
Oh, mine. Oh, thank you for the question.
See,
Mark.
I'm just tossing to you.
I appreciate that. So mine, what Victor Medina's, the Perpetual Law Firm really stood out for me. And because I think this is something you and I have talked about probably for 4 years and is still something that's kind of a question maybe for us. So in Texas, as we record, only lawyers can own law firms. Did I say that correctly?
Yes, you did.
So only lawyers can own law firms. And so it inevitably at some point, law firm owners, who I suspect to be the majority of our listenership, you encounter the problem of how you either sell your law firm or what do you do with your law firm. It is an asset and usually a significant asset of your personal individual wealth. So how do you sell your law firm? And that's hard, especially because you have a limited pool of buyers.
With limited finances.
Exactly. And which is, you're exactly what you talked about. Or what Victor talked about, you're limited by your buyer's skills, wallets, and, their desire to, own something that you build. So it was just an interesting idea that a perpetual law firm, to use Victor's words, if I hopefully summarized it correctly in my notes, it operates without you, the founder, you, the managing partner, and it grows without you, and it just distributes money to you in, perpetuity, the perpetual law firm. So
Right. So I guess the way I would equate that is like, all right, so you buy stock in Apple. Okay. So now you own Apple. Are you managing Apple? No. Are you making any decisions about Apple? No. Are you collecting profits from Apple? Yes. So you think about your law firm the same way. I own it. Say in that case, I own 100% of the stock in this law firm. But do I have to work in the law firm to collect the profits of the law firm? No, I do not have to. Now, I may choose to, I may want to, but do I absolutely have to? No, I do not. It goes back to the concept in Atticus called killing the hero.
Yep.
Which is if you eliminate all of my primary functions within the firm, that doesn't change anything. I'm still the owner of the firm. I still own it.
Yep. The exile factor.
So why would I retire? Why, or more importantly, why would I want to sell the business, at least while I'm somewhat competent? I understand one day when, I start drooling and things like that, y'all may need to kick me out. But, as long as I'm still reasonably competent, and it's still profitable, making money without my efforts, why would I even want to sell it?
Exactly.
I would just keep taking the profits.
Well, and especially because this is the part that, when you really started talking about longevity, like we alluded to a minute ago, it's like, well, if you really want to live until 125 work, then we need to make sure that this firm can sustain yours and Tina's, your family's lifestyle until you're 125. And so that really helped us rethink the law firm, and let's build. So one of the things obviously that you've done, you've developed the systems, the marketing, all the culture, the operations. That very existence of my position indicates just how serious you are about creating a perpetual law firm. But it really helped to hear it from Victor's point of view. So I really liked it. So what do you got? What's your next favorite?
So I'm going to go with Jennifer Felton, who is one of our Atticusins. And she was talking about how she built a great practice and a great life. And the first thing out is she took control of her health. And she showed before and after pictures. She's lost 80 pounds over the last year and a half, 2 years. I'm not quite sure exactly when the start date was of that journey, but so that was the first thing she related. So I was, I was perking up because I'm all about that. I'm trying to get healthier as I get older, as opposed to the opposite of that. But she made the statement, greatness lies at the intersection of certain key factors. And those factors she laid out were passion, skill, and monetization. So I've heard this a lot, and I've always thought this was bullshit, which is follow your passions and you'll get wealthy. No.
Yeah.
I mean, I've got a lot of passions. I mean, I have a passion for golf. Is that going to make me wealthy? No. Trust me, I played Sunday. Not anywhere in the ballpark. Because number one, I don't have the skill. Okay. And there, without the passion and the skill, I can't figure out how to monetize it. So let's be real here. What do you have the skill at that you can monetize? And then your passion can become building a great company around that. But without the skill and without the monetization of it, passions are just hobbies, honestly. Now, I know a lot of people might disagree with that and have a different take on it. And I think it was, who was it that said this? The guy who wrote the 4-Hour Work Week. I'm blanking real quickly. But I think it was him that basically was the first person I ever read that kind of poo-pooed the ideal of, quote unquote, follow your passion. No, you have to be able to monetize it. How can you make money? There's a ton of businesses out there that make very mundane products that nobody's passionate about. You can't get real fired up about it, but they're important products and you can make money doing it. So the passion is building that business about that you can monetize. It was a movie a long time ago. I saw this guy. He made coat hangers for a living, and people were like, that sounds boring. He goes, yeah, but I just cornered the Chinese market and I just sold 2 billion coat hangers. Okay.
Wow.
So yes, not an exciting thing, but he's able to monetize it. So that was the first thing she talked about. And to kind of take the passion, skill, and monetization to the next level, she's talked about you need to be proactive. You need connectivity with people that you're dealing with, and you need positivity. And she gave this one little hint that I have now done. She goes, get on Facebook every morning and say happy birthday to everybody. It's just a simple little thing to do. I never thought about it. I knew I got them every, once a year. My birthday would roll around. Like people I hadn't seen or heard from in forever, or happy birthday. I mean, like I knew that Facebook would do that. But I just never thought about it. So every morning now, as I'm drinking my coffee, waiting on my kid to get ready to go to school, I pop open the Facebook and it gives me all the birthdays.
Interesting.
And I try to personalize them because you can give an automated message, but I try to come up with something personal about them.
Oh, that's cool.
To say happy birthday to everybody. It's a simple thing, but it kind of makes me feel good. People respond to me. But I thought she was, number one, her weight loss journey was very motivational, but just the way she talked about how greatness lies at the intersection, of monetization, skills, and passion. I thought just pulling that together actually made it kind of crystal clear in my head.
Very cool. Well, thank you for that summary. I unfortunately had to step out for that one.
That's right. You bailed on that one.
I did not bail. I had to take a call with, anyway, I had to take a call. So I appreciated that summary.
You can go back and listen. The recordings are available.
Exactly. No, that's a good thing. I'm going to do that. So, so in our remaining time,
Your last one, yes. I forgot to throw to you. I'm so sorry.
No, you're good. I was hoping you remembered how to say Max's last name. Max Lugavere? Does that sound good? I don't know. Well, Max spoke on unlocking your brain's potential, optimal performance, and well-being. He's the host of a Genius Life podcast, and he just, I believe, made a movie about his journey. His mom suffered from Alzheimer's and passed, and just all the things and how that's affected his life. And it was just a fascinating story. He's obviously a great speaker, but just talked a lot about, just gave real good actionable tips is what I thought. You and I have talked about the importance of protein on this podcast a lot. And I mean, it's honestly something we talk about often. It's not just for the podcast or for purposes of listenership, but, he talked about, just the importance of protein and just the different things you can do overall to affect whether or not you can get Alzheimer's. I think is that the best way to put that?
I think his mother had dementia. I'm not sure it was quite Alzheimer's.
Okay.
It was something ultimately that caused Alzheimer's.
Yeah, exactly.
Ultimately caused dementia.
Yeah, but there's some things you can do to prevent dementia, and am I saying that correctly?
Yes, absolutely.
And so I think that's what his presentation was about. But it was really cool. And I think actually we ended up talking about it, and I didn't realize this wasn't obvious to everyone, but he said you shop the perimeter of the
grocery store thing. I did not know this. This was shocking to me. And so his basic premise is you should eat fresh fruits, vegetable, and meats. Protein.
Eat whole foods.
Eat whole foods. And he basically put up a slide and showed the diagram. Every grocery store is designed the exact same way. On the perimeter, all around the store, are the fresh fruits, vegetables, and meats. In other words, the refrigerated section.
Exactly.
That's where all the fresh food is, the food you should be eating. All the processed food that you're not supposed to be eating is in the middle of the grocery store, up and down the aisles. Never freaking occurred to me. That was like, oh my God, that was sort of like a game changer. And I went back and told my wife, yeah, you idiot, you didn't know that? Like, no, I didn't know that. Nobody ever told me.
Yeah, so it was cool to hear that stuff. The stuff that I think that both of us didn't know, though, the dry cleaning You should just be careful with where you get your clothes dry cleaned because of the chemicals. I think recently, actually,
Water quality was another one.
Yeah, post Summit though, I think the EPA's banned chemicals in the dry cleaning, the PFAS or something in the chemicals. So I think that's definitely that. It's good to see that we're taking action on those things. But I had never thought, oh, my regular dry cleaning bill, the thing that I thought was saving me time by not, having to press my own clothes, that could actually be harmful to my health. And so that was great. You said air quality.
Right.
Yeah.
Air quality. So as an aside, go to Netflix. There's a movie out called Dark Waters with Mark Ruffalo. If I'm saying, Ruffalo? You know who I'm talking about.
I do.
He's the Hulk. He's the Hulk. But it is a movie about the contamination of our drinking water in America with PFAS, the forever chemicals. And it is really a real thing. And there are ways to get fresh water that is not contaminated with PFAS if you're in one of those regions where it's a problem. Not every region has the same effect, but anyway, Dark Waters is a great movie. Recommend everybody just to if you don't know about the PFAS water contamination issue, go check out that movie, spend 2 hours and you'll learn a lot. So, but he did mention that he had this, he was very particular about the water he drank. Now I thought he might be going slightly overboard, but hey.
Well, because I think it is something I try to be very cognizant about, but drinking out of plastic bottles, because the plastic can, especially in heat, as it is down here in Texas.
And I'm sitting here drinking out of a plastic water bottle, yes.
Sorry.
Well, I know.
But it is one of the reasons I think why our producer and I, we moved to a water line instead of drinking the water bottles. Not only is it obviously it eventually gets costly just to bring in the water bottles, but also you're drinking from plastic. And so now we've replaced that in the office for our team. And so, drinking up from glass when you can is obviously a good thing. But I just thought it was a great, I appreciate that Atticus doesn't just tell you, okay, let's talk about profitability. They're really focused on your health, and they proved that by bringing in Max. So I really enjoyed listening to him. Genius Life podcast. It's on my list of my shows to listen to now.
Gotcha. Okay. All right. My last one, Robert Rose, who's the author of Killing Marketing. He is a marketing, guru of sorts. Has written several books. He was there as one of the keynotes, and actually spent most of day 2 with us as well. He was talking about harnessing the power of your brand's voice. All right, what the hell is that? Okay. All right, harnessing. In other words, monetizing. That's just a code for monetizing. How to make money off of your brand. Okay, well, what is your brand? In other words, your persona. Me. This firm. How to make money just off of being me. So really what he's talking about is monetizing your audiences. We all have audiences. Now, hopefully you grow your audiences. But for my example, I have 2 audiences. I have a database of about 20,000 clients, past and former and current clients. I also have the Successful Barrister database of lawyers of somewhere around 4,000 to 4,500 lawyers that I regularly communicate with. So how do I monetize those 2 audiences? I think that is really kind of his focus on marketing. And so the first thing is you've got to build your audience through usable content, i.e. this podcast, i.e. the Successful Barrister newsletter, or through our clients, i.e. more clients, successful outcomes, they have positive feelings, and then we stay in touch with them. So, but basically monetizing your herd of people and building that loyal brand following. And how do you monetize that? Now, there's different ways of monetizing that. Now, in our case, we want referrals. That's how we monetize our audiences. But we can also monetize it by cross-selling other goods. Now, he was given examples of how you can monetize that by selling other products into that same group or selling your data. Now, as lawyers, we don't sell our data. But I suppose I could sell a Successful Barrister newsletter or the audience there because they're lawyers or not clients. But I wouldn't want to do that. You sure as hell can't sell your client database. I'm certain there's a million felonies you'd be committing in DRs you'd be violating if you did that. But he was given examples of different companies that actually do that sort of thing. You know, and he talked about different types of audiences. You have your paid audience that you pay to get in front of, say, running a TV campaign. You know, you have your owned audience, which is like your website. Then you have an earned audience, say press releases or news stories or things like that. And then finally, you have rented audiences, your social media platform. This was something that I didn't think about, which is kind of startling, especially if you use social media a lot to market yourself, is you don't own your social media platform. You are simply renting it from the social media provider, Facebook, Instagram, whomever. And they can kick your ass off at any time for any reason. And all of a sudden, it's gone. Same thing with Google My Business, your Google My Business profile that everybody should be claiming. You know, like we're number one in Houston, Texas on the Google My Business profile, on the map pack, the 3-pack. I don't own that. I am there simply because Google
Allowed you
presently allows me to be there, and Google could kick me off at any point, and that would not be very pleasant because we rely on that a lot. So, you know, he talks about all of these three audiences and whether you own them, you rent them, you know, and so forth. But how do you grow those audiences? And then ultimately, how do you monetize those audiences? So I thought that was he did a presentation on day one, and then he spent 3 hours with us on day two. So much impressed with him that we are actually hiring him to come in and work with us as a consultant. I think our first meeting with him is next week, right before Christmas, although I know y'all are all listening to this in January 2025. But I'm getting kind of stoked about it, you know, get some new ideas, some new blood into the system. We'll see how it works out.
All right. Look forward to hearing more about it. You know, the one thing I will say that stood out to me, he's very impressive. It's the second time we've heard him speak. He was at a couple of summits ago as well. Very impressive. He introduced me to the term zero-click search. Do you remember him talking about that?
I did. I don't remember what that means. What does that mean?
It means that now when you type in a search, anything into Google, you may not actually click on a link to get the answer because AI is going to populate, or it's going to suggest an answer for you. And you're not going to, it's a zero click. I mean, you're never going to click and you've searched and you've gotten your answer. And what the future of that means, because eventually, to use his words, Google will figure out a way to monetize that. Once it becomes reliable, and it's really improved. They'll start now adding links.
Oh, perfect example. This morning, I was telling you the story. I went out to start my Mustang. I was going to drive my Mustang today. And the battery was dead, and I'd already put my briefcase in the trunk. Well, so I go to open the trunk. I can't open the trunk because there's no power. There's no juice.
Yeah.
I open my phone. I dictate into my phone, how do you open the trunk when you have a dead battery on a 2015 Mustang? And it gave me an AI answer immediately.
So you didn't click on a YouTube video or
I didn't
link
click
or
on a
anything.
thing. Didn't click on a thing. It just gave me an answer. Now, that answer was wrong, but, or actually I couldn't figure it out.
Might have been user error.
So what it actually said is that you have to take the key in your key fob out, and there's a special place in the back underneath the back seat, which if you know a Mustang, you can't get into the back, especially a guy my size. I can't get in the back seat of my Mustang and find this thing. Like, I finally said, screw this. But point is,
Zero-click search.
Zero-click search.
And and one day Google will be monetizing that. Obviously, they monetize everything. So, but I thought that was a very cool term. So, not sure how we're going to get into the zero-click search results, but we'll figure that out then.
All right. So with that, we're going to take our final break. And then when we come back, we're going to give you our final thoughts and maybe how you can get involved in the Atticus Summit. I'm Mark Whitehead, a lawyer, entrepreneur, and business coach. Thanks so much for tuning into the Successful Barrister podcast. We have a blast creating it, and I hope you find it helpful. If our chats have sparked your interest, I'd love to hear from you. Shoot me an email at mark@markwhitehead.com. That's Mark spelled with a C. And join the Successful Barrister newsletter. Even better, let's hop on a call. I'd love to chat about how we can collaborate, share ideas, or just catch up. In our final segment, we're just going to talk a little bit. I work for Atticus. I am a spokesperson for Atticus. And obviously encourage any lawyer out there who wants to learn how to grow a great practice and have a great life, that Atticus is a good place to start. Been there for 15 years. I give them lots of credit for being able to build the practice that I have. When you joined us 4 years ago, the first thing I said was, you have to come to Atticus with me.
Yep. And one of the first things I did was an Atticus W revenue session.
Yes. And back when we were still doing them virtually during the middle of the pandemic.
Yep.
Yes, we were sitting in the conference room doing that. So first of all, just go to atticusonline.com. If you want to just dig around a little bit, see what they've got. They've got individual coaching, which we have done in the past. They have group quarterly meetings, which is a separate program, and they have them at different levels. There's the practice growth program, which is for people more in the beginning stages, and I think they teach the 4 pillars about cash flow and profitability, marketing, staffing and building all-star staffs, and then time management, time and focus management. So those are the 4 basic pillars of the PGP program. And then when you get to the DYM program, which I think they're actually going to rename this year.
We have a call tomorrow.
We have a call this in the next couple of days where they're going to reorientate us on how the top level program is working. But the basic premise behind DYM is kill the hero. In other words, build a practice that doesn't revolve around you, the owner, so you can live the life that you want to live. So, and it's probably a little more in-depth and complicated than that, but I don't want to go into it in too great a detail. But if anybody wants to talk about it, I would be happy to talk to them about it. Denise over at Atticus, who is their client relations person, frequently calls me up like, hey, Mark, I have this person who's interested in Atticus, and I've given, she's given them the sales spiel, but they want to really talk to a member. So I will frequently do calls, with people that are interested in Atticus, and I kind of give them sort of the insider's take of what it's all about. So I will make that offer to all of you out there. So if you want to talk anything about Atticus, learn more about it, send me an email at mark@markwhitehead.com. Mark is spelled with a C. And I encourage you to explore. Just explore. There's, never any obligation. They give away freebies all the time, so you can kind of figure out where you're going and figure out what might be of interest: group coaching, individual coaching, or just the summit.
I was just going to say, Summit was a great opportunity. There were some first-time attendees there, people who were just trying to do exactly that, tip your toe in the water, the Atticus water, to see what it's all about. So it's not for another year. November 6th and 7th, I think, is when it is next year. But highly recommend. I think it's an incredible community. I have had the privilege of kind of, along your coattails, learning, developing my own communities, whether that's in PILMA or AAJ, Atticus, and, LitiQuest. You send me to all of these things. And I think, Atticus it's definitely one of my favorites. Really good people. And I like the focus that they give, not just on becoming a business owner and how you monetize that, but just the importance of actually having a life with it too.
All right. With that, we're going to wrap up this podcast. I'd like to thank everybody for listening to the Successful Barrister podcast, where legal legends are made. I'm Mark.
And I'm Diana.
And together we're the dynamic duo of law. Remember to rate and review us wherever you get your podcasts. And if you've enjoyed this episode, tell your friends. Let's try to grow our audience. As Robert Rose said, you need to grow and monetize your audience. That's what you're there for, people. Visit the website at successfulbarrister.com, and be sure to visit our sponsor, Mark Whitehead & Associates, a national disability law firm, at disabilitydenials.com. And with that, we're out of here.
Bye.